Hi, welcome to BariNation, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty.
You've just tuned into a podcast that welcomes you into a community, a resource center, and a safe place that powers your journey towards personal wellness.
Our goal is you leave us today feeling hopeful, inspired, and ready to live your best bariatric life.
Hey friends, welcome to the BariNation podcast. If you are listening or watching this episode on the day that it dropped or the week that it dropped, we are at ASMBS. We are in Washington, D.C., representing you, the patient voice at the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgeons. And we are thrilled because we got an invitation to speak on one of the main panels on the last day of the conference. And it is all about lifting shame and stigma around revisional surgery. And funny enough, we have two revisionists on the screen with us today. We're really excited to have this voice and to have this presence there, and to speak on a topic that means so much to us, not just because Jason and Nat are revisionists themselves, but we have so many members of our community and listeners of this podcast that are revisionists themselves. So the topic is on how we can lift shame and stigma. But Jason and Nat, you guys really worked through that shame and stigma. You pursued revisional surgery, and now you find yourself in a completely different stage of life. So what has revisional surgery allowed you to do now that you are kind of on the other side of that shame and stigma?
Now you go first.
Oh, okay. I'm not used to that. I have been able to do a lot in terms of just everyday life, I think is the biggest one. But really traveling has always been a huge passion of mine. But being 400 pounds, right, I couldn't fit in a seat. It wasn't comfortable. My body, it took a toll on my body. I would swell a lot. Just the list goes on. It was so uncomfortable for me to do that. And since losing over 150 pounds, I'm like, oh, I can fit in a seat pretty comfortably. I don't have to splurge on like a premium seat or a first class seat to feel comfortable. I can sit on the saver seats if I need to. It's just overall a better experience in general. And it's very near and dear to my heart. My grandma traveled a ton, and I always wanted to be able to do what she did, meeting people and seeing new places and having all of those experiences. So for me to be able to travel within the US over the last almost 5 years has just been incredible. I have traveled to places I never thought that I would see, and I'm excited. We're going to New Orleans this fall, and that's another space that I've never seen before. So definitely just the traveling, the airplane travel, the walking, the being able to wear things that I want to wear while I'm traveling, feeling comfortable enough to just say yes and go on these adventures has been just immeasurable. Such an incredible experience. Yeah.
Yep. And it's important to call out, this is what you're experiencing after revisional surgery. So you had your initial bariatric procedure, went back, had a revision, and life has been really completely different for you after that. We hear people talk about all of these benefits, right, that they get with their initial procedure, but you really had to fight through that shame and stigma to pursue a third bariatric surgery for you to really be able to access this travel joy in your life.
Yeah, I had for anyone who doesn't know, and any new listeners, I had a lap band in 2009. I was 350 pounds at age 15. So I had the lap band, huge success until I had really severe complications. Had to have a revision to plication, which is, I call it like a pseudo sleeve. So instead of removing my stomach, they kind of rolled it up and sutured it into a sleeve shape. And then I gained all my weight back and then some. I went all the way up to 403 pounds. That was my highest recorded weight. And that was a point in my life where I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. I was 27, I think, 26, and just thought, man, I can't do this anymore. I can't be 403 pounds and travel and do all the things that I want to do. My grandma had just passed away. And so we were just reminiscing about all of the amazing adventures she had gone on. And I thought, man, I've always wanted to do that. And then I kind of realized the body that I was in. And I thought, man, I can't do that if I'm this way. I can't live a long life, almost 90 years old, being 403 pounds. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a turning point. Decided to have VSG that September of 2020. And it was the best decision I could have ever made to leap over the shame and stigma, like you said, because my first 2 surgeries failed. And I thought that I was a failure. I thought, oh, well, I'm just meant to be 400 pounds my whole life. And it just is what it is. And then something in me just thought something has to change. I'm going to give it one more shot, one last shot. And it was the best leap of faith. If you're watching, I have a little poster that says leap of faith. It was the best leap of faith that I could have ever taken. So,
yeah. And at this year's conference, what we're really focusing on is what practitioners can do, right? To help people, patients lift that shame and stigma. And what we're really talking about is it comes down to 3 things. It is, right, building trust with your patients. It is connecting them with a peer support community. And then it's that ongoing education. Those 3 things are things that practitioners can really lean into to help their patients, their friends move through that. And I know that both of you guys really tapped into those things as you were moving through your revisional process. So if a practitioner can help you get there, it's really important that I think we talk about what patients can do with the life that they've been given. Jason, you just got back from an amazing vacation in Hawaii, and you were doing things that you could not have done before revisional surgery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Much to Nat's point about sitting in an airplane seat, our flight was 12 hours one way. And we ended up about 14 and a half hours coming back because we had some issues with one of the planes we flew on. And we sat on the tarmac with that one for over an hour. And I never would have been able to do that before. Being in Hawaii and waking up, we had a 6-hour time difference. So waking up what would have been 2 hours earlier than I normally wake up to go to the gym while I'm on vacation, still have the strength, the stamina, all the things to be up the rest of that day, going and walking. We stayed in a 62-acre resort, and they have transportation for you. Like you can get on the tram, you can get, all these different things you can get around. But we didn't. Like we did a couple of times, but we chose to walk the majority of the time. Like we would walk to dinner, we would walk after dinner, we would walk around and just check the place out, because a lot of places you couldn't get to by the train would get you to like the general area, but to be able to go explore those things, you walked it. And so, there was the first couple of times I did it thinking, oh my gosh, this is so far. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this again and again and again? Well, then I got to looking at it, the more times I did it, I was like, well, it's not even that far. And then I go to find out, when I started the thing, I was like, oh, wait, I've got a tracker on my phone that tracks my steps. Well, we started tracking stuff, and there was a day we had 13,000 steps in a day, and we never left the resort. We just walked around the area, and that was just in, within the confines of where we were. But that was after a full workout at the gym that was almost 2 hours long. Getting up 2 hours early, doing those things, and being able to still do all of that, have the energy to do all of those things, never would have happened. Even after just regular, after I had my VSG and started, experiencing, weight recurrence and having the, some of my comorbidities coming back and some of those that never left, there's absolutely, I wouldn't have made the flight, let alone being able to walk around the gym like that. Or walk around the gym, walk around the resort, walk around any of that. So I wasn't going. I didn't even know anybody named Jim when I had my VSG. That's how far removed from the gym I was. But it really got to a point where, to your point, talking about practitioners, who are helping us, it was a practitioner who convinced me that I could have, that I was worthy of, that revision wasn't because I messed up. It was because it was a medical necessity. And there's 2 sides to that coin, because there are a lot of people out there who still feel like the medical necessity has to only do with complications. In Nat's case, that's what it was. And it is that way for a lot of people. But for a lot of people, the medical necessity is weight reoccurrence, because the sleeve only gets you so far in certain cases. That was my case. And that's really one of the biggest things as far as stigma goes that I've had to deal with as a revisionist. To say the, post-op is people, oh, well, I thought that was only for people that had complications. What was your complication? Oh, weight recurrence. That was it. Like, I didn't get as far with the sleeve as I wanted to. This was an option. It was told to me by my surgeon that, we go through the chronic disease talk. We go through it's never going away. It's going to try to outsmart everything we throw at it. We just have to have those tools in our tool belt to be ready to fight it. And if we're not ready if we don't have these conversations loudly, openly, and honestly, people are going to be blindsided like Natalie and I were. And that's just not something that I want for anybody in the community. I know that neither one of you are the same. You're both the same. None of us want that. So these conversations are vitally important.
And the fact that, well, a shout out to Dr. Joe Cribbins. He's the one that's presenting with us at ASMBS. It's because he is so real and honest and open to having these casual but serious conversations with patients. It allows us, the patient, to drop that shame and stigma. I know Dr. Joe and his team work really hard on ensuring that the patient education that they have for their practice is constant. They're using patient-friendly language. They are on patient platforms, right? They're open, they're visible, and they let people know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're battling a lifelong chronic and progressive disease. And it took that conversation, I know, for you, Jason, to get on the other side of that shame and stigma. And it's just so enjoyable. It's just so awesome for me to be able to see how much more of your life is now accessible to you because you busted through that shame and stigma. You said, nope, I need to continue this treatment. It took a village. It took a lot of people. But you were able to get it done. And at this year's conference, that's exactly what we are presenting. And I just have to take a moment and recognize it's because of all of the people that we've been able to interview on this podcast that we have been given this voice at the ASMBS. We've interviewed experts from Advent Health, from the Kentucky Bariatric Institute. Dr. Ann Rogers, the current president of the ASMBS, has been a guest on our podcast twice. Next week, you guys are going to hear from the incoming president of the ASMBS, Dr. Ponce, Dr. Pesta, Dr. McMahon. I mean, I could go on and on. The list is extensive. And because those practitioners got a little bit out of their comfort zone and decided to join us on this Patient Voice podcast, these messages are now being heard by more people and more practitioners. And that is what helps lift the shame and stigma. So we just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the practitioners that have joined us on the podcast and thank all of the patients that have been brave enough to share their story like Jason and Nat have been today. It's because we're working as a team. We're moving the needle on shame and stigma. And we are just so thankful for that. So friends, if this podcast resonates with you, or if any one of our podcast episode has resonated with you, please share it and reach out to those practitioners and let them know that you appreciate that they have taken the time to share their story and education on the BariNation podcast. It takes a team, takes a village, and we are just so thankful to be a part of it. All right, Jason, Nat, what's the one thing that you're hoping people may be considering revisional surgery or who have had revisional surgery know or are leaving this episode with?
I sat for a very long time. I've said this before, like a very long time with it, myself, and the shame and the stigma just enveloped me in every way, shape, or form. And a lot of it was self-inflicted, and it didn't need to be. So.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Also, just ask your surgeon. Ask them how they can guarantee that this is going to make your metabolic health, your life better. Just like Jason, it took a practitioner returning my phone call and sitting and having an hour-long conversation, answering all of my questions. Don't hesitate to ask. They want to help you. And if you feel like they don't, find another surgeon. There are so many practitioners. You can go on the ASMBS website and search for surgeons in your area that are ready to help you. But ask the questions, reach out to your surgeon. I say this all the time in the BariNation support community. Our medical professionals, our practitioners, they work for us. So we ask the questions, we need the support, we need the care. We have to be the ones to initiate.
Yeah, definitely.
Could have said it better myself. All right, friends. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, friends.
That wraps up another empowering episode of the BariNation podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, keep the conversation going by joining the BariNation membership community, where you can attend live support events, access on-demand resources, and find a caring community.
Join us at barination.mn.co. If you found this podcast valuable, help us produce it by becoming a $5 monthly supporter at BariNationPodcast.com.
And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.